on this marvelous Monday to teach you history. And with today's lesson, we will be wrapping up chapter 5, and you have basically the rest of the week to be working on the test, as well as studying your states and capitals, and also finishing your state project. Don't forget that that is also due on Friday, so you have a lot going on, and you'll notice on your plan that you have like 3 days of review of this chapter, and then the test is on Thursday. If you're ready to take it tomorrow, and then spend the rest of the time studying for your states and capitals and wrapping up your state project. And I just want to remind you to put it together correctly and to make sure that it's all ready to go. I'm sure that will be so exciting to be done with and not having to work on it anymore. But for now, let's get back to what we are talking about. So yesterday with Miss Garcia, or I should say last Thursday with Miss Garcia, she gave you some reading to do, that you were supposed to read pages 113 through 115 and then do study guide pages 79 through 80. And if you didn't do the study guide, that's okay because it's optional. So some important information that you read in these pages. First thing is that we studied James Monroe. And James Monroe won the election of 1816. And what Monroe is famous for is his Monroe Doctrine. And there were 4 things that in this doctrine that he covered. Number 1, European countries or nations should not create any more colonies in North or South America. Number 2, European nations must not meddle in the affairs of any independent country in North or South America. We know that colonization has been very popular, but now that there are countries like America in North and South America, they're like, Europe, you need to stay in your lane on that side, and we're here. You do not need to meddle in our business. So number 3 is actually the U.S. promising not to meddle in Europe's affairs as well. And then number 4 was specifically at Spain, and the U.S. said Spain should not give any land it owned in America to another European nation. So if they were going to sell the land in the United States, in America, it had to be sold to America. And we're really going to be specific, and we're going to look at Florida. Now, Florida at this time, during Monroe's presidency, was owned by France. Or not France, let's try that again. I keep saying France. Florida was owned by Spain, not France. Spain. Okay, it belonged to Spain. But it really became a refuge for a few different people. First of all, for African Americans who are fleeing from slavery. Also American Indians whose land had been taken and they needed somewhere to go, so they decided to go to Florida. And the U.S. was very interested in making Florida part of the U.S. However, Spain did not want to sell it, specifically because Andrew Jackson. Now, President Monroe at the time sends Jackson to track down the Seminole raiders, who were Indians, but he was ordered to not attack the Spanish people. He didn't listen, so instead he destroyed Seminole villages, captured a Spanish fort, and even captured Pensacola, the capital of Spanish Florida. And this made, of course, the U.S. leaders, especially the Secretary of State, and of course President Monroe, and of course Spain, very upset. But despite this, Spain does sell Florida to the United States, and Florida becomes part of the United States. The other thing you read about was the Missouri Compromise. This is a big deal. Now, the Missouri Compromise has all to do with slave states and free states. Now, at this time, it was very even. They had 11 free states, 11 slave states, and they wanted to keep it the same. But in 1819, Missouri becomes a state. So now they have to figure out, is it a slave state or a free state? And whatever it's going to be, that's going to make the the balance uneven, because they wanted it to be the same so that slavery didn't become the norm, and for people who wanted slavery, the free states to get rid of slavery. Now, there was always arguments between those sets of people. Now, the people who owned slaves were it was very important to them. It was part of their culture. It was part of their states. And for the free states, it was very important not to have slave states. So you have two groups of people who are very upset at each other and really don't understand each other's views. So you have a lot of arguing. And due to this, we come up with the Missouri Compromise, okay, which will only last for so long before we end up in a civil war. So neither side wanted the other to gain more representatives in Congress, because then they could pass that slavery was outlawed or slavery was free, like that you could have slaves. So at this time, Maine is part of Massachusetts, and Massachusetts was willing to give up Maine to become its own state, and so that we would have an even number. So one would become a free state, one would become a slave state. So Maine is in the north and Missouri is in the middle. And so Maine would become a free state because a lot of free states were in the north, and Missouri would be a slave state. So that way there were 12 slave states and 12 free states, and so that it was even and nobody had the upper hand. So in addition, it also made sure that any new state above the southern border of Missouri would be a free state because it's the north, okay? Anything below the border of Missouri would be a slave state, okay? Now, this will work for a while, and they'll be able to keep that balance, but eventually tensions are going to get so high that they're going to eventually end up in a civil war, which is something we will talk about. So that's the end of the chapter. There's a little blurb at the end that says that despite being a brand new country and being very young and not knowing exactly what to do, the founding fathers did a really good job. Okay, did they avoid something that was serious and not put it in the Constitution, not put it in any form of law? Yes, which is slavery. And slavery is what is going to eventually lead us to civil war, and that's what we'll talk about soon. So take out your study guide if you did it. Pages 79 and 80 are up here. So you had to say which one was the Missouri Compromise, which was the Monroe Doctrine. And the best way to tell these apart is if it's talking about free states and slave states, that is the Missouri Compromise. If it's talking about Spain or European affairs, then you're talking about the Monroe Doctrine. So check those answers. Okay. James Monroe was elected to be president after James Madison. The United States supported South American nations declaring their independence from Spain, okay, because not only did Spain own Florida, but it also owned a lot of South America. That's why when I said they couldn't meddle in South or North America, that's why. Because the South American countries wanted Spain out. They wanted to be their own countries. Okay, the American Indians who were in Florida were the Seminoles. And here's the basic explanation of the Missouri Compromise. Okay. Okay, and this is really important. What do you think it meant by the Constitution would stand the test of time? The Constitution created a form of government that has allowed the United States to be a strong country from its beginning. We still follow the Constitution today. It's our basic form of government. It tells us how to run our government. And like I said, our founding fathers were very smart men, and they knew how to create a constitution that would last a long time. Look, we're in 2020 right now, and we still follow the Constitution that was written. Has it changed some? Yes. But is it the basic document that it was in this time that we're studying? Absolutely. But it was a great call, and it was a great thing that the founding fathers did for us and for our country, and we still follow it today. So good job, founding fathers. And page 80. So this is just a fun finding the locations on the map. Oops, probably should show you that a little bit longer, right, guys? All right, that's kind of a fun page. Now this page is not these pages are not listed on your plan, but you could do them to review the whole chapter. So it says the first 5 presidents, there they are: Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, and then Federalists, Democratic, Republicans, some other information that we went over, and then 82. Oh, and there's also latitude and longitude. And that's it. And I'll go back up. So I went a little fast here. So here's my suggestion to you guys. Most of you are probably not doing the study guide, which is fine. That is your choice. No problem at all with that. Here's my suggestion. If you want to do any of it at all, I would definitely do these last 2 pages, 82 and 83, because they really do go over the chapter, and it will be helpful for your test. So don't forget to go over the PowerPoint to review for the test. If you have not already done so, make sure you've taken the quiz for this chapter. I'm sure you already have. Most of you have taken it or took it last week. Your test, like I said, is scheduled for Thursday. You can take it Thursday, you could take it Wednesday, you could take it Tuesday, you could take it today if you wanted, right after this video, if you want. I do suggest that you don't wait until Thursday, just because you're still studying your states and capitals, you still have your state project. So either finish your state project and take your test later in the week, or take your test now and have your state project be what you're working on in history. It is completely and totally up to you what you want to do, or if you just want to follow the schedule. I'll leave it up to you and your parents. Again, states and capitals test is on Friday. Do your best. Remember to study. Remember that the videos that we've been going over in class, the tour of the states and the WACO one, are on our playlist if you want to watch those to review. Do your very best. And this is your last history video for chapter 5. We may have some review ones coming up. So just enjoy your day, finish up your work, and then have the rest of the day to relax. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the next video. Bye.